Hey guys, I'm Matty Hill and welcome to another episode of Ryco Filters Mechanics View. In this series, we visit different workshops around Australia and we chat to the owners about why they are in business and what makes their workshops tick. So, let's head inside. Danny, how you going, mate?
Good, bud. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us here today.
No worries. Welcome to my madness.
It's very impressive. So today we're here with Danny from GDL Automotive. Danny's going to tell us a bit more about the shop today, so let's get into it. So Danny, obviously you have multiple branches of the business and you love keeping yourself busy. How do you manage it all?
So there's two big challenges with running any business of this size: cash flow, which is everyone's problem in business, and staff. So we've got 15 people across 2 sites currently at the time of filming. The way that we structure this so that I can keep control and know what's going on without being spread far too wide is a hierarchy system. Basically, we've got apprentices who will report to mechanics, who will report to a workshop controller, who then report to a store manager. So I've got a manager I've got 3, there's Gordon, Brandon and Andrew, and then they report to me. So for me to know what's going on at any moment in my business, I only need to communicate directly with 3 guys.
That's great, so it takes a lot of stress off you, obviously.
Not so much.
Still quite stressful?
Yeah, there's still a lot of stress.
I bet there is. Yeah.
But yeah, it means that if something needs to be sent down the line, I
Yep.
just go to my store manager and vice versa. If it comes back up, like by the time something gets to my desk, it's pretty serious.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So Danny, why did you expand the business operations and how do you find being independent?
Reason for expanding is probably a little bit unique. Going back to what I was talking about earlier with my youth and growing up, there's just something inside me that's driving me to build a large business. I can't actually articulate why, it's just an internal drive that I've got. So a lot of people say, oh, it's about making money or earning revenue, and sure, there's money's needed to run and operate a business and we all like nice things. There's a component of that, but I'm not in it to get rich. There's something about it that just makes me want to build a really big business. It's business drive.
So obviously, as I see around me, your shop is full of Jeeps. You know, how did you end up here and why do you specialise in this one car?
So there's a bit of a story behind that as well. To your point, and you probably can't all see on the camera, there's probably about 20 Jeeps in our care right now. Every hoist in this shop is a 5-bay shop, has a Jeep on it.
And there's also Jeeps everywhere
Lined
outside
up
that
out
I've
the
seen
doors,
as well.
Yeah, so Jeeps are our bread and butter. So the story of how that came about. So John worked for me. John was the best man at my wedding, and him and I get along very well outside of work. Inside the work environment, we're very similar and we clash a bit. So John decided to leave GDL. He was working for me for a while, and he went and worked for a dealership that was a Jeep dealership locally.
Right.
Then that dealership went belly up
Yep.
for whatever reason. I don't actually know the answers to that. And
Yep.
he was out of a job and reached out to me and said, can I come back? I need a job. And of course, it's Johnny, it's my best mate. So sure, come back. So he came with a couple of years experience under his belt at a Jeep dealership. The local clientele got word of where he was because there was no Jeep dealership for a period of time. There was no one around that could do
Yep.
it. So people started headhunting Johnny. And then we got a few clients through the door who were after John for his Jeep knowledge. And we identified that as a possible niche market. So we kind of picked his brains and documented a lot of what he knows or knew then, and then started to make a little bit of noise about it. Johnny then since got another opportunity and he's gone off and worked somewhere else again. He's now talking about starting his own business and regularly talks to me about how to do that and get that off the ground. But that's what started the Jeep thing. And then from there, we started just marketing that we knew Jeep.
Yeah.
And then
that
as
obviously brought on more business.
that
Yeah.
brought in heaps of business
Okay.
to the point that we then did know Jeep. We started knowing the common problems, and then because the Subaru thing sort of started to slow down after COVID, when the lockdown lifted, we saw the wrecking yard sales drop a bit, and so we identified that Gordon, who was overseeing the wrecking yard, had a very creative flair in his personality, and so we kind of pivoted his role, and he's now overseeing the marketing and our YouTube content. And so we started doing a lot of DIY videos, teaching people how to do these common things on Jeep. What we found happened was, sure, there's a few people that can take our video and do what they want to do at home. A lot of people watch it and go, that is way too hard for me. And they put it on a tow truck and it comes here. So the YouTube content of us giving away information for free has actually added credibility.
Yeah.
And it's just snowballed. It's gone really fast in a couple of years, to the point that we get the dealership sending us work if they've got too much or sometimes get stuck. And like I was saying before, that's a give and take relationship. We've had cars towed from Hobart, from Cooma, Dubbo, Townsville. No one else in the country, for reasons that I can't identify, won't touch them.
I saw you mention in one of your videos, people are bringing your cars from Queensland.
Yeah, we've had things
that's a big
towed
tow
from
trip.
everywhere.
It's a very expensive tow trip.
But if
you're obviously doing it right.
If no one else will fix it,
yeah, correct.
why not?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it in the future. Jeep's not bringing out diesels anymore, which is the biggest thing that the target market for Jeep owners is the ability to tow. It's the torque that the diesel engines have.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see what happens in the future. Again, talking about that electric vehicle thing, I'm anticipating that Jeep will be hopefully really good with their electric vehicles, but time will tell.
Everyone's going to have to phase into that new market of where those cars can pull trailers and pull big loads. So it's going to have to happen.
We've got to upskill and we've got to diversify.
Yep.
And we've got to make sure that we're able to do that. Otherwise, we're dead in the water when electric comes in.
Right. Well, putting the Jeeps aside, what other cars do you specialise in?
So
Land Rover as well?
Yeah. So the other thing is Range Rover, Land Rover. The reason for that is that's where I did my apprenticeship. I worked for an independent workshop down in Brookvale that specialised in Land Rover, Range Rover. So that's all I knew at the time. So again, just had a bit of a reputation for knowing them.
I'm sure you replaced plenty of airbag suspension in the cars.
Range Rover, look, they're a particularly problematic vehicle, more so than Jeep, but there's far more people across the country that are willing to get involved in them. So there's a lot more help available around that. So the challenge that we face right now with Land Rovers is that I don't have the experience with the newer stuff because obviously that was what I was trained on. So one of our contractors who comes, he actually drives down from Macquarie Lakes for us, he's a Land Rover Master Tech. He did his training here in Australia, he then re-qualified in Europe, and then he came back and was workshop controller for a local JLR dealership before he went out on his own. So he's in the process of launching his own business up at Macquarie Lakes, but that's obviously a slow burn and I've been there. So he contracts to us 2 days a week for Land Rover stuff. So we can cater to that as well.
So I know the industry right now is quite challenging in terms of getting apprentices. How are you guys coping with that?
The challenge is actually across the board. It's not just apprentices. So what happened with COVID is our industry has a lot of foreigners who are coming over on visas. This is pre-COVID. And then when COVID happened, obviously everyone went back home. So there's a huge skill shortage, and I know it's across many industries, but the one we're seeing is obviously the industry we know. So it's very hard to get qualified and it's very hard to get apprentices. So we've kind of attacked it a couple of different ways. One is through the apprenticeship, the way we recruit them is I've got a recruiter inside my networking group, a guy called Jethro from Picnic Technologies, a bit of a shameless plug for him there. He actually specialises in the hospitality space, but took on our need. And 5 of our 15 people currently have come through him. Then we, as part of our CRM, which is like our weekly email and text message to the database of customers and suppliers, we give people updates of what's going on in the business and challenges we're facing and whatnot. So we put a call out for, hey, we're looking for some staff. And we got one of our current staff, Rome. She was a customer of ours, has a Jeep Wrangler, and got that email saying, hey, we're looking for some staff. She came in, she interviewed, she was wearing everything Jeep. She had the hat, the shirt, so based on just the passion for the product on its own, we took her on. So she's about to start her 2nd year now, but some of the Jeep specific repairs that she's carrying out, she'd be up there with a qualified technician. So that's kind of 2 avenues we use for getting apprentices. We have across the business, I think 4 apprentices. We've got 3 contractors, so guys like Mitch that I was talking about with the Land Rover stuff. We identify people who have different needs for a work week structure. So some people don't want to do 40-hour week.
Yeah, so you just schedule them in when they need to come in to do the work.
You just got to be flexible on what's available, what's not. One of the things that we do use to attract qualified guys is we will not work weekends.
Right.
So I can match a salary for someone who's working in a chain or a franchise dealership who's doing a Saturday and I'll promise them 40 hours a week, Monday to Friday. So this attracts usually young dads, got young children, who are jack of working the Saturday and not spending time with their kids. They can earn the same money and do Monday to Friday. So we've got a few people through that. It's just about being flexible with what's on offer. One of the other things that we find attracts a lot of our younger people is our training policy. So what we've got in place is if you come to me with any training you want, and not necessarily automotive, so if you identify leadership training or some self-help courses or anything like that, the company will pay for any training you want under the condition that if you leave within 24 months, you've got to reimburse the company. So this attracts certain people or a certain type of person who's passionate about developing themselves. So we don't just end up with mum said I had to get a job. We end up with guys and girls who really want to grow themselves and excel their career.